Mind you, that Saudi always had like had a leading role in music in general, but it was this Khaliji cultural Saudi music
Yeah.
that also had an influence in Lebanon and Jordan, this Khaliji style. So when it comes to Saudi, it was this specialization. Like we knew how to do that sound really well. It's our culture. It's what we know. But as the 80s started kicking in, the 90s started kicking in, and we started having exposure of international music, whether from East or West or Europe or Africa, whatever. Uh, some people started having other perception and mixing music. And I believe that the music that we're mentioning in Jordan or Egypt is not the typical Egyptian or Jordanian music. This also, they have their own cultural signature sound. We're talking about the indie sound, the bedroom recording, the personal uh, writing a poetry and coming up with the sound, to express it. This is new to us
Yeah.
here inside.
This is the 966.
This is the 966, episode 57. Mr. Richard Wilson, we're still here.
57.
How you doing,
one
sir?
by one. This was a good one. They're all good, but this was fun too.
This is fun. In just a few minutes, we'll be speaking with Ahmed Shali and Mostafa Fahmy from the Jeddah, Saudi Arabia-based independent record label Wall of Sound about the music industry in Saudi Arabia and their journey as entrepreneurs in this rapidly changing space. We're going to be talking about the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia's investment highlights report in just a few seconds. We'll also talk about more developments in the venture capital and entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia with the release of an STV report on this subject. Before we get going, Richard, just reminding our listeners and viewers, subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Give us a 5-star review. It would be awesome, especially on Apple Podcasts. Would help us out a lot. Richard, let's get going. What's one big thing today?
I highly recommend this talk we had this week with Ahmed Shali and Mostafa Fahmy. I hope you listen to it. Number one, you really like them. They're really nice people. And number two, I just love their spirit. You know, why they're doing what they do and the spirit they want to, the sort of atmosphere and environment they want to create with Wall of Sound Studios. It was such a treat to get to know these guys.
Yep. Completely agree.
My one big thing. All right. So in episode number 48, 2 months ago, my one big thing looked at the Saudi Ministry of Investment's first quarter 2022 economic review. And Lucy, you may remember, I described it as 56 pages of triumph. Because as observers of Saudi Arabia know, the kingdom is on a notably historic economic tear. I mean, and so anyway, the Ministry of Investment's second quarter investment highlights dropped this past week. And this edition is another 78 pages of triumph. Lucian, I think there may be something wrong with me because I love these reports.
We have another report coming up after this too, so we're report heavy this week. But that's okay. These are great.
I think it might be because I've been curating information, news and analysis about Saudi Arabia for so long. I can remember, and it's not too long ago, that how difficult and rare it was to get hard data and current metrics on anything. So these MISA, Ministry of Investment, Saudi Arabia reports are like a fire hose of facts and data and statistics and yet the presentation and the format are set up so it's an easy read. Anyway, so I can't possibly hit on all or even a healthy percentage of all the stats the report cites. The top line data is something, if you've been watching the show, reflects a really good past performance, economic performance. So the top line data points 11.8% year-on-year real GDP growth, and 5.4% year-on-year non-oil sector growth. There are scads of other metrics. But from me, and I'll go over it, the most interesting takeaway is what the authors of the report choose to highlight and, how they prioritize their topics. Same thing with the first quarter. And then this edition, the sector focus is tourism and hospitality sector in general. And so there's extensive data and target metrics, and there's interviews, which are kind of interesting, with Ahmed Khatib, the Minister of Tourism, John Pagani, CEO, Red Sea Development Company, and Jerry Inzerillo, who's Group CEO of Diriyah Gate Development Authority. All of these, Red Sea Development and the Diriyah Gate, are all sort of hitting important benchmarks right now in terms of getting open and, getting to a point where they can receive and host a lot of guests and tourists. In the tourism sector, I thought it was interesting. A good bit of attention paid to the Pilgrim Experience Program, right? Sort of recognizing the tremendous growth opportunity in and of itself in the Pilgrims experience. We did a segment on Mutawaf, which is sort of part of this, making that experience a little more organized, a little more formalized. You'll be pleased, a discussion of giga projects in this section. And we've wondered before what is and what is not a giga project. So this report helpfully names 7. And if you're seeing this on the YouTube version, the video version, I think we're going to have real nice graphics of each of the 7 giga projects.
Right there. If you're looking right there.
Right there. Chapter 3 highlights reforms, including the new companies law, steps to improve competitiveness, the Saudi's regional HQ program, and livability. Chapter 4 focuses on recent deals in key sectors. The point being that these are deals and movement in sectors that are helping in terms of diversification. I'll run those down really quickly. So, because this is all included, remember 78 pages of triumph. Advanced manufacturing, information and communication technology, sports, entertainment, entrepreneurship, financial sector, health and life sciences, renewable energy, transport and logistics, and water. Chapter 5, useful rundown actually on local and international investment events that MISA organized a report of, were part of. This is something like, Lucian, back in the day, we could never find this info. It was scattered everywhere. Mm-hmm. Here it is laid out nicely, what they did, and including the Select USA Investment Summit in Washington in June, and also the Select USA Roundtable in June, with our friends at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 6 includes an interesting frequently asked question guide and other resources. I like this section because it has QR codes for easy access to investor services manual, licensing portal, regional headquarters program like relocation services, et cetera. Incentives, financial, non-financial loans, utility abatement, tax credits, export financing. Throughout, I should note that the National Investment Strategy, which was launched in 2021, and MISA is a big part of this, has a load of initiatives, and it's designed to attract investments. So that's referenced throughout the document. So that's your review of the second quarter 2022 MISA, economic report. As I said, it's a fun read, and this is a long one, big thing, but it doesn't begin to fully cover the topic, cover what's in this report. The report is for you if you're interested in doing business in Saudi Arabia, if you're already doing business in Saudi Arabia, or if you're just a little weird like me and go for a torrent of data and commentary in an attractive package. This is the read for you.
Richard, I'm shocked that you did not mention that we used to produce a very similar report like this. Sort of stopped doing it around 2015, 2016, but it was usually around 32 pages and was sort of a broader look at the whole economy. And we had it all ginned up with really nice graphics, and it took 6 months to put together, just the two of us. So both of us know, and you said it perfectly, looking for this data, getting it from the internet, like trying to find it in many different places took forever. And to see it all in one place is very Vision 2030. It's very like, hey, here's literally everything you need to know. What the progress is. MISA says it oversaw 49 major deals valued at $925 million in that quarter, 2,000 new jobs in the local economy. I mean, there is so much in here. Richard, also Saudia Group interview in there as well, if you're interested in the airline space. Just
lots of interviews.
Yeah, and it's just so well produced. It's so easy to read. Usually for economic reports, it's, hey, here's a cover graphic and then data, which is great. But if you're looking for something a little bit more easy to read, perhaps on a plane ride, this thing does it. It's really, really well done. So kudos to the producers of this report, MISA. And you can see it at investsaudi.com right now. We also have it on our website, sustg.com.
Yeah, we'll
fantastic.
We'll include a link for sure.
Yeah, we'll include a link. But yeah, check it out. And, these guys are doing really good work. And so we are excited already for the third quarter 2022 investment highlights report. We will be staying up late waiting for it.
A correction will come at some point. It has to slow down, but these last two have been pretty fabulous. And for those of you out there that like these reports, like I do and like Lucian does, maybe we should start a group.
We should, or an offshoot podcast where we just get really into it and go graph by graph. Richard, my one big thing this week is also a really impressive report that came out this week, not from us, but we can still look at it and enjoy it. I've always really been interested in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia, but really, since our conversation with Iyad Bayouk, who's a venture capitalist in the space earlier this month on the show, what was really cool about that, Richard, and I'm sure you agree, is just how much Iyad knows about the space, just sort of being on the ground, seeing it unfold. He's with Flat 6 Labs, raising LP money, working closely with entrepreneurs through accelerator programs. So it just was like really, really good. And so this week, STV released a really impressive report that was actually not as much looking back at what's been done, although there's a lot of that in it. It's a lot of looking forward. And Richard, just to echo your point from the last segment, I mean, there aren't a lot of places out there that are doing really good stuff on the startup ecosystem and venture capital space in Saudi Arabia and the region. Magnet and WAMDA aren't good sources for that stuff. But STV's report is really good. It was released by STV Insights. In the report, STC says the MENA region is one of the most attractive markets for the development of tech ventures and argues that it has now reached an upward tipping point in its growth trajectory, which is interesting. STC believes the region can output 45 unicorns by 2030 and can, quote, create digital giants that can list on public markets, remain independent, and keep their focus on delivering innovative solutions tailored to local needs. It continues, more than 55% of MENA's population is younger than 30 years old, and it is growing at a rate of 1.6% per year. MENA's population are avid consumers of digital media with an average daily social media consumption of 3.5 hours. These statistics set the MENA apart in comparison to any other region across the world. The report also describes, it's from STV, so, just the largest venture capital firm in Saudi Arabia. The report describes Saudi Arabia as the gravitational center for scaling tech unicorns based on the country's GDP and, of course, the stock exchange size. And what was unsaid is how well the stock exchange is doing, especially in the IPO space. It continues, the list of underdeveloped sectors in the region offering leapfrog opportunities is, quote, long and includes logistics, which is still underdeveloped and extremely fragmented, as well as real estate discovery, purchasing and financing, currently underserved due to lack of market transparency and the dominance of informal and non-professionalized network of independent real estate brokers. So, again, Richard, just like the last segment, I would like to go through this whole thing right now, but it's not quite as long as the MISA report, but it just has so much good in there that makes it really easy to just sit back and sort of digest everything that's going on with the space, see where it's going. I should note, SCV also says progress is really already underway and in fact has outperformed its previous prediction it made in its last report, which was 2019. So we're going to include a link to it in the YouTube comments. We'll also include it in the show notes for the podcast listeners, but just check it out. It's from SCV. It's really, really good. Lots of great data. We're also going to include some more graphics here to my right so you guys can see, or my left. I forgot if the thing flips when we record it, but yeah, one of these directions there's going to be data. But just check. It's just really good. And if you haven't listened to our conversation with Iyad Bayouk from Flat 6 Labs or Ahmed, who's also in the venture capital space in the region, just really bright guys, great conversations, really fascinating stuff.
I love this report. And I feel like I think when we spoke with Iyad Bayouk, which I want to second, he's really knowledgeable, and it was such a delight just to sort of push start and have him just talk and really intelligently about the industry. And as you recall, just prior to that discussion with Iyad, the IHS Magnet 2022 H1 first half reported coming out. And but you're exactly right. That was retrospective, looking at the first year. This STV report, which, by the way, I think is really well put together and well thought out, is fascinating because, for me, when you hear all this stuff that Saudi Arabia is doing, and these announcements and projections and metrics, and the aspirations are enormous, and you go, that's not realistic. Come on. That's your first, that's a legit, you got to be critical. You got to do your due diligence, and you have to wonder, all right, is this possible? And sometimes it's not completely possible, but that's the direction they're heading. But the numbers can be enormous, and they can be daunting. They can be so big that you dismiss it. You read this report and you go, well, that's why they're excited about this. That's why they're so fired up about the possibilities in a lot of sectors, and specifically, so STV, as you mentioned, is the largest VC group. They have 500 million under assets under management, and they're a frequent and big player throughout the Saudi VC ecosystem. 35 investments, 23 lead investments, but they're looking at the big picture here, and it's a forecast. And what they see is they see a MENA region, which is a population of about 480 million. By comparison, the EU region, 450 million, US 335 million. And and I hope we can put it up. There's a graph that shows on the y-axis is the vertical axis is population under 30, x-axis is population growth. And what you see is the MENA region up at the top right. So younger population, higher growth rate. And so the regions were South Asia, Latin America, US, and Europe. And again, the MENA region is top right, really well poised. So this is a population, equivalent to the EU, bigger than the US, that, as you mentioned, and as the report goes into, is really underserved in terms of its tech and the way it uses financial and technology in terms of its consumption. It's 45% of MENA population is still unbanked in the retail sector, where the leasable retail area per capita is still 1/4 of that of developed economies. So the fintech and e-commerce opportunity is huge. So you've got this big market, you've got this technology savvy market, you've got this young market, and you alluded to it, but one of the interesting things about STV, this report referred to an earlier report they did, and it was entitled "How Much Can the Venture Capital Industry Grow in Saudi Arabia by 2025?" Mm-hmm. And that report said it's going to take. This is in 2019. It was done. It said it expected to take 6 years for the MENA and Saudi Arabia VC deployment to reach 2.6 billion for the MENA, 500 million for Saudi Arabia. They achieved that in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the other point that this report is making, is they looked at comparable ecosystem growth in a variety of markets in Brazil, Germany, UK, India, South Korea. Even they sort of prorated the US market, and they realized that this is on a similar path, and the path is not linear; it's exponential. Yep. In terms of its growth. So the report is just fascinating, and it does finish up by saying, it makes sense because of its GDP size and because of the depth of its stock exchange. The Saudi Arabia is the natural gravitational center, which you referenced here, but it's really a fascinating report. It was interesting to me because it goes, like I said, you go back to it. All right, we have all these enormous aspirations, and then you read this and you go, this isn't just fantasy. This is based on real metrics, real analysis, and patterns that have gone forward, in comparable markets in recent periods. And it's a great read. And it's something, if you're a Saudi, if you're in a VC, but also just in general, you're interested in that economy, you go, all right, this is possible. Maybe we do have 45 unicorns by 2030, and maybe we do have 10 decacorns by 2030. Mm-hmm. It's not just sort of pulling a number out of a hat. It's based on the market and based on the current trajectory of that market and based on the demographics of the market. And it's a really good report.
Very well said. It's also, if you look at these, like you said, it's exponential growth here, but the report also talks a little bit about why it's happening, and it's a little bit in there, but they're essentially saying, well, look, there's a lot of reforms going on right now. So, the financial sector development program, some of these sort of big picture reforms that are happening, it's impossible to really know the direct impact of it, but it's sort of in the background of what's happening over there. And so it places Saudi Arabia and the MENA region as sort of leading in the world in, just ripe opportunity. And all the graphics just explain, they say it, but all the graphics just visually, and we'll have them on the YouTube as well, as you'll see, are stunning. VC deployment in Saudi Arabia in 2017, basically nothing. It's as close to zero as you can get. 2021, $548 million. that is exponential growth. And so where's it going from here? Well, I mean, the economy is humming, the market is ripe, the population is young, the reforms are ongoing. How could you not conclude that this is a really, really good place to invest right now and for the next 8 years? So check it out. I mean, this report is really good. Both of us, when it hit sort of late on, I guess it was Tuesday night, Richard, we were sending it back and forth, just being like, whoa, there's so much in here. This is incredible. So check it out. Really great stuff. Good stuff from STV. Hopefully they don't do 2 more years until their next report. I know these are hard to produce, but just was really good.
And we want to thank them and also the Ministry of Investment for their graphics-rich reports, because that makes our, that's an added touch of flair to our B-roll.
Yes, indeed.
Our videos. I know you were thinking of us, STV and Misa. I know you were thinking of us. Greatly appreciated. We acknowledge your being so thoughtful.
And we're excited to speak with somebody from STV sometime in the near future to talk about this report and some of the stuff they're doing. They have a really impressive portfolio of companies already in Saudi Arabia and in the region as well, and beyond that, frankly. But just all over the place too. E-commerce, media. Just anyway, check it out. Really good.
And if we're plumping next upcoming, our next episode is going to be with Dr. Saad Al-Shahrani, Deputy Minister of the Saudi Ministry of Investment, which we're extremely excited about.
Awesome. I cannot wait for that, Richard. That's going to be fantastic. Man. And in the meantime, we are going to get to another entrepreneurial story here. Let's get to our conversation, Richard, with Ahmed Shali and Mostafa Fahmy with the independent record label Wall of Sound. This is really fun. You guys are going to love it.
You will.
It's no secret, especially to listeners and viewers of the 966, that Saudi Arabia is going through a massive social and cultural change in recent years as the kingdom continues to open up. Artists and creators across the kingdom are discovering their potential and new audiences, and that is especially true for the music industry in Saudi Arabia. We are pleased to welcome now to the 966 Ahmed Shali and Mostafa Fahmy from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The Jeddah, Saudi Arabia-based independent record label Wall of Sound, which was founded in 2018. Ahmed Shali, co-founder of Wall of Sound, is a seasoned music industry professional who has spent much of the last 2 decades in the music industry working with Rotana, Music Master, and others. Mostafa Fahmy is marketing and communications director for Wall of Sound, is a musician himself, and works on behalf of the label to promote Wall of Sound as a cultural phenomenon rather than just a brand, and has a really awesome chair. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can check it out. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the 966 today.
Thank you so much, Roshan and Richard. Really, I mean, it's so good to be here, guys. I mean, probably since we got in touch, really, we've been, me personally, I went through all of your, previous episodes, really, and I've been listening, and seriously, it's really good thing. So it's really, I'm personally and Wall of Sound really honored being on the episode today. Really, we're gonna have so much good things to talk about. Really, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind, Ahmed. And Mostafa, thanks for being here. This is one of the great things about doing a project like the 966, because this started out, Dr. Joshua Yaffe, who was a senior analyst with the State Department, is a friend of mine. And so we had him on, and he was talking about, Iraq-Saudi relations back in the 30s and 50s. Really fascinating, talking about Ibn Saud and that sort of thing. But he said, you need to talk with Dr. Sean Foley, who's professor at Middle Tennessee State University, does Middle East history, cultural, and so we had Sean on the show, which Sean.
Yeah.
And then Sean says you need to talk to so on and so forth. So we have all these degrees where we keep expanding our network and our friends, and now we're here talking with you guys, and I'm excited. I mentioned this to Mostafa earlier when he was getting comfortable in his chair. This is episode 56, and typically I have some understanding of the topic, some depth. I just studied it or some experience with it. This is just going to be all brand new for me, so I'm really excited. I did want to share, and just to get it going, it struck me when I was looking at your artist list. I remember I was riding with a friend in Riyadh in 1999, and we were driving through the city, and he said, "Oh, you got to hear this song." He was so excited about this song. And I said, "Well, what is this song?" And it was Desert Rose by Sting. And he was so fired up because Chem Mami was in it. It featured Chem Mami, and this was a big deal. And then I listened to a lot of your artists, and it's just striking. So first of all, this is 1999. It's kind of fortunate just to have an Algerian artist on a pop song.
Yeah, that's right. And it was really weird back then. I mean, to listen to an Algerian artist. I mean, featuring a very big pop star like Sting. I mean, it was like, whoa, this is really fascinating. I mean, this is going to give him a great push afterward, and definitely it did.
Yeah. And but then every one of your artists I can listen to on Spotify. It's just a different world, and and you guys are right in the middle of it. But let's get you started. Mostafa mentioned the story. What is the story of Wall of Sound?
Well, from my perspective, I was approached by Ahmed about this idea. I walked into this very 70s retro studio, asked to come in by the agency that I was working in to actually propose like a marketing plan for this new studio opening up. And me and Ahmed had a 2-hour conversation. Mind you, that in the first 5 minutes, he already refused my proposal. It was way above budget, but we nonetheless, like, despite that, we actually talked for 2 hours about music, about all the posters in the studio. The studio had its own soul, it still does. So anyone who comes in was captivated by that. I wasn't an exception. And that's when we started talking, and we started talking about future visions. Ahmed shared his own vision. It was very similar to mine, given that I am a side musician. And that's how Wall of Sound actually started having a story. Ahmed had the story, but I came in to help make it more public, put it in words, try to display it in social media. Artists started, like, we were targeting artists in the first year. We never target masses. We needed to, and it was a lockdown. So the lockdown gave us a chance to produce. We had artists coming in, great artists. Started with Skeleton Crowd, came in after Aeon, and then Fulana, and then the list keeps going until we're signed to more than 15 artists now. And this is how it started. It's a new raw ground ready to be planted with all this art. I'll get a little poetic. I'm just warning you from now on, because it is very suitable for a story like ours. It also gets technical because at the end of the day, this is an industry and businesses are involved. And this is what we're learning day to day. At the moment, we are at a phase where we're trying to put our artists out there. We're more in the industry side of things rather than the creative side of things. The creative took a life of its own. It's organic. It's running on its own now. So at the moment, we are trying to gig. We are trying to create the culture of week-to-week gig rather than mainstream seasonal musical festivals.
And Ahmed, you were a veteran, as Lucian referenced, sort of in the field, and you'd been in the music industry. Had this been germinating? Had you been thinking about this for a long time, and then the opportunity presented itself, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing music business since 2000, and I quit 2013 when I decided really, to strip down, because the whole industry back in the day, I mean, it was really, I mean, so it was a great slope for the whole music business. I mean, Spotify 2009 just popped up and start taking everything by storm. Like, you don't need to buy any more physical format thing to listen to music. You don't have to buy vinyl, you don't have to buy cassette. But back then it was almost died. CD was in a great state of death back then, and vinyl was almost, I mean since 80s it's not there. So when Spotify came in, and even before Spotify, you have the iPod and Napster when end of 90s. So the whole indication saying this, the whole music business really going down and go to the physical format. So I was a little bit frustrated when this really happening, because I'm a very into the physical thing. I like collecting. I like find this, holding it in my hand, just go through the booklet, read the names, producers, and all this kind of things. Yeah, I can find online differently. And now all these music platforms, you all can find everything. The producer name, the studio, whoever working in the mixing and mastering. It's a great thing. But still, I mean, reading it on the booklet, it's definitely another kind of feeling. So I said, probably now is the time really to jump the ship and just go find something else. So I went into pharmaceutical business, and I thought this is really stable business, paying a lot of money. and it's cool. And maybe now it's, not anymore this kind of, cool kid who's doing music with a long hair, and just is going out to go with wearing a suit and tie, and being a cool kid. But no, I didn't do that. I was the same kid who's been doing music but doing pharmaceutical. Okay, so I was like a black duck. I mean, within the whole company, and they loved it because they're like, we have this cool employee who's got a long beard and long hair and is wearing black all the time. We a very diverse kind of establishment, and they love to play this kind of things. And I was like, what? If it's working to my favor, then it's great. I'm cool with this thing.
So you were bringing up the cool element at the
I was very kind of revolution into this and the pharma things. I mean, and everyone was really happy about it because I have a kind of extreme metal band, and they loved the whole idea. This working in a very strict kind of a business, but at the same time you have this like nocturnal kind of life. Playing with a band, writing dark music. So they love this kind of having this two clashes side together. I mean, it was really interesting to them, and it was really nice to be honest. I mean, it was a cool thing. But then suddenly, I mean, in 2019, I felt like, what, probably I'm really wasting my life. Yeah, good money is cool thing, good industry and everything, but then I'm losing my soul. I've been always loving music. I've been listening to music all day, and I've been watching and observing the local scene is really growing in a very interesting way, and the whole country is opening up. So I said, maybe now it's time to go back and invest something, and try to bring all these kids together and try to really put them in the right direction. So this is where Wall of Sound idea came out, and definitely we have the other co-founder, Ayman, who's been there with me from the first day, but he's more into technical side, the studio and recording and building the studio thing, and I'm more leaning to the industry thing itself. So we came up with Wall of Sound, and then we approached Mostafa, and all the puzzles come together, and alhamdulillah, I mean, since 2020, like I say, October 2020, things are really growing in a very interesting way.
So what was so you said you had your band, you had your extreme metal band. What was the environment? I mean, if you wanted to play, where would you play? This was back, when in, let's say, in 2015 or 2014.
Yeah, actually, I mean, to be honest, I mean, when I quit in 2013, I was a little bit, I distanced myself from the whole thing. I was really focused in doing pharma. I came to be a really successful business guy when it comes to pharmaceuticals. So I was spending most of the time, but let's say, I mean, the whole thing is when music really started and gigging and doing concerts and metal and rock music back in the day, and start like probably 2001, 2002, things were really fine. I mean, we're doing our live shows, but it was more like an underground. Even outside in Europe, when you go doing metal and rock back in the day, it was always almost underground because it was difficult kind of music. Not everyone can really get into it. It's not that easy to digest or really understand what the message behind it. So we were doing it mostly underground. But to be honest, we were performing and things were fine, but it wasn't really public shows. It was more like an underground. But bands were there. I mean, if I say like 2002, 2001, probably we were like almost 15, 20 bands out there. I mean, it's not that easy number, to be honest.
It's been interesting in our conversations with people in the artists or in the industry in Saudi, and everyone always talks about how things have changed since Vision 2030 in 2016 and in the recent period. And something they always point out is that, look, these artists, musicians, artists, comedians, they were all there. They were all there, and now it's just been an opportunity to come forward. And so when you established Wall of Sound and you started looking for artists, what was your experience? Was it, were people just ecstatic and happy to see that you were there, or did you have difficulty finding artists?
Absolutely, it wasn't difficult at all, to be honest. I mean, since day one, when we decided to open, up Wall of Sound and going really public, it was kind of cool, really, to approach bands with the things that we want really to put out there, and they were very excited to be part of it. I mean, from day one, everyone really showed very great interest. Really didn't make anything difficult to us. me and Mustafa, and when we start working on selecting artists, which one is fit, which one is not fit, which one got a cool sound, which one is really fitting Wall of Sound identity. When we found those band and we approached them, it was really fun because they were like felt how genuine is the message. They felt how really we want really to support him and deliver their sound out there. Because we always, when we come with a band and we always want to talk about music, we always put the priority is music, 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 and then everything comes else, money, industry, whatever you want to count, but music, then 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 music, and then everything comes and number 10, number 11, it doesn't matter. But really, it's all about music when it comes to Wall of Sound. Very simple. And Mustafa can definitely elaborate on this, how we approach band and how me and Mustafa just like went of, Mustafa, go find a good band and I'll go find a good band and let's see which band we have chosen and how it goes. And it went crazy, really.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, Mostafa, but the range of artists is pretty astounding. I mean, and someone like Idrisi, that's a certain type of music. Someone like Death Noise Frequency is an entirely different type.
Oh,
of music.
I love this. All right, I will tell you a secret. Death Noise Frequency is my band.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I didn't know that was your
an
band.
inside joke.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to hide this information. I was like, out of all bands, have this Noise Frequency. That's amazing.
Well, it's interesting too because Idrisi's Jordanian. I mean, you're drawing artists from the region, right?
Yeah. Totally, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Mustafa can go with this.
As you mentioned earlier, I think the range that you have noticed on how the variety of artists that we came in, I think it was as mentioned by Ahmed, you go out there, find an artist, I go out there, find an artist, and then let's meet next week and see what we found. And we didn't even put any guidelines on genre, on style, on whatever, or whether it's Western or sang in Arabic or in English, it didn't matter. All we said, me and Ahmed, is make sure it's unique. That's all, Yeah, and that actually, this kind of spirit brought in a lot of fresh music that appealed to a lot of artists regionally. And as we started releasing and as the music industry started noticing what we're doing, we began being approached by regional artists who think themselves as unique. And the result of that is definitely one of the most unique sounds ever, Idrisi.
So who's the lead on production? So when a group comes in, and I'm always fascinated because a group comes in and then they walk out of the studio with a nice finished polished sound of some sort. Who's in the studio running production for each of these groups, or do they all have different producers, or how does it work?
So I mean, Ayman as the co-founder is the sound engineer. So usually he's taking care of all recordings and all this. Sounds matter. It's usually Ayman is taking care of this when it comes to the studio. Yeah, but then we have case by case. Sometimes we do it at the studio. Sometimes we do it outside. Some do our mixing in the studio. Sometimes we do it outside. So it depends on my case, how we approach it and how we tackle this. But there's no nothing standard. We're doing it. Yeah. But then we have our studio. Then we have our studio. This is one of the cool things that us as a record. It's not that very common to find a record label and a studio at the same time. I'm operating under the same umbrella. So what is really interesting in us that we have a record label and at the same time have our studio who's supporting the record label and recording our artists. So we don't have to spend much fees on this because usually outside you pay advance payment to give the artist money to go and record and come back with a recording. We don't do this. We have our studio, so you come and record and the facility is yours. You can use it to come up with a recording.
It sounds like Ahmed, you appreciate this. It sounds a little bit like a hippie commune, and I say this because in reading one of the points, Wall of Sound is an independent record label. We often do business on little more than a handshake and a profit split contract. In Wall of Sound, we rarely demand any measure of creative control over artists, bands, musicians. We don't lock artists, bands, musicians in long-term multi-album contracts.
That's right.
So the hippie commune in the best sense, that's got to be attractive to artists, especially new artists.
Absolutely, absolutely. As Mustafa said, we don't put like a certain genre that we stick to it, but as again Mustafa said, it should be a unique and different. We don't like recycling the same kind of sound, because recycling some kind of sound, you don't need me. I mean, it's out in the market there. You can put yourself in the market, but we really need to upcome with something different and something sounds different. So probably one of our criteria is always the edgy kind of sound. I mean, we like something edgy. We like something that's really pushing you. I mean, you feel like you sit. You know, we don't like listeners to sit like leaning back on their chair and listening to music and close their eyes and dreams. You always have to be on the edge of your seat when listening to music. This is how music should be, like on the edge of the seat, listening and feeling and focusing and go crazy. It's not. Yeah, I mean, sometimes with the jazz music, with the classical music, it's good. Lo-fi, chill out music, you always can lean back and chill and close your eyes and dream. But when it comes to indie, that it's representing yourself and express yourself and express your generation, express all this, whatever kind of feeling you have, it always should be, not always, but mainly it's an edge kind of feeling to us.
Yeah, it takes me to, I find a lot of reflection between what's going on right now, not in terms of music or sound, but more in terms of psychology and experience. A reflection between what's going on right now and what's been going on in late 80s, early 90s in Seattle with grunge. It's kind of like this camaraderie, this rivalry, this thing that this sound, what's going on. I want to be at the edge of my seat, as Ahmed said, rather than, like just chill and relax. No, these guys are saying something. Let's listen, It's
exactly, yes.
So who's the Saudi Kurt Cobain?
Oh, let's hope nobody.
Yeah. Well, no, not on the end. No, I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. Not the end result, but the artistry.
Oh, okay. I have a few. I don't know if I can name only one, to be honest, in terms of creativity and innovation. Oh, should I?
Well, I'd be interested in. Well, you have to be sure because you have a bunch of artists. But I mean, it was fascinating listening to your artists and I don't disagree, edge of the seat, but I have to say, I mean, is it Clinch?
Definitely one.
And then Aish is a nice song. That's not an edge of the seat song, but that's a really nice song.
It is not. It is nice. Yeah. I mean, Clinch is very reflective artist. I mean, he's an urban artist. He came out of Jeddah city. He's totally a Jeddah boy who's really delivering a great message, saying it in a very slang way. He's expressing himself in a crazy. His writing skill is very interesting. All of us been really impressed. Though the first time I met the boy, I've told him your lyrics really suck, and probably need to change it. I mean, it reminded so much me of Disney kind of writing. So I told him, no, this is not a cool thing. I feel like I'm in Disney. And then, I mean, I started accepting him, and he's really trying to change and writing. Something is really come up his heart, and something is really all his, I mean, his age, like the 21, 22, 23-year-old boys really, something come up their heart. So I think it's Clinch is doing amazing. I mean, he's one of a kind, to be honest.
Well, you laugh because you're about his lyrics because there's an Arabic, so I didn't know what he was saying, but it sounded good. He could have been saying something very Disney. But no, so I mean, you're skeleton crowd. Idrisi's, that's sort of dance and I mean and then,
I mean he's a synth pop. I mean he's going very synth pop.
Yeah, exactly. Wasted Land. I'm sure you love that, Ahmed.
Of course, yeah. Of course, it's a good one.
So, guys, you do. Oh, go ahead, Richard. Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to just jump
please.
in. So, my question. So, you guys do. I mean, what you guys are sort of offering, because people can record at home, they can make their own music, and they could bring it to a label or not. They could put it on the internet or not. Yeah. But you guys are really providing. A really high quality space to make that to just take it to the next level in terms of where the quality of the music that artists are recording, and then you handle marketing and stuff like that. But you also do video, audio, visual, and stuff.
That's right.
So there's so much now with music that just goes directly onto, you know, Instagram or TikTok. I mean, you guys have a really strong presence on Instagram. Can you tell us a little bit about how you do that, Mostafa, especially on the marketing side? Just getting it from recording to into the market and distribution to Saudis who love social media.
Well, when it comes to music, it's when the artist comes in all the way to the artist actually finalizing a song, being mixed and mastered and ready for release. That's Ahmed's journey. It comes maybe to me after that, and it's still shared work between all of us, artists, me and Ahmed, and everybody in the team as well. There's Hood, Dalia, there's Saleh, there's Ahmed now. So basically, the label is not a classic label as it's defined in its own way, like, because the industry is not really ready for that classical definition of what a label is. So the production of the music and the funding of the videos or the production, whether it's be it financial, creative, or giving some sort of a guidance for the artist, that's label. But then it goes beyond that because we need to push it beyond that as the market still rises. So yes, we do the marketing part. We try to consult artists on what to do on their own page. We try not to interfere too much, but we try to show them what is happening, what's not. And to be honest with you, we're all like in mid-age in management, and these guys are in their 20s, you know, so they would know better how to market themselves. But then the booking part comes, the PR comes, providing interviews for them. We're trying to be all intermediaries in the music industry at once until actual industry start growing, the business starts growing. So whether it's PR, we're waiting for more music PR to be out there so we can give them that task that we are not supposed to do, but we're doing it because it's the only way to put the artist out there, you know?
That's right.
So we're running faster than what a label should be doing, and we're not limiting ourselves to that. And again, it goes back to Richard's reference of the hippie culture kind of thing, where day by day live it. And Ahmed mentioned, like, sometimes we record in a studio, sometimes we record outside the studio. Same thing goes for marketing. Sometimes we do a big campaign, sometimes we do, again, every thinking, every thought that we do in any brainstorm, it serves the project. And the project is the single. And the single is, what are the lyrics saying, and how does the music sound like? It decides everything. That's the marketing subject anyway. Always think of the big idea, whether it's a product you're trying to release a campaign for, or any kind of project that you're trying to expose, even if it's a painting. What is the big idea that will actually resonate with people to actually pay attention? So we're doing whatever it takes, in a nutshell.
So this is going to be not a question that really follows from that, because what you're saying is you're going wherever the artist takes you. You're identifying artists, and then you people that sound different, people have a particular talent and are edgy and really catch your attention. So you're taking them and you're helping them be the best that they can be. Is there so on the other end, in terms of the audience, is there a particular type of music or genre or anything that the Saudi audience now is particularly attracted to? Is there a favorite type of genre?
I'll answer some of that, and then Ahmed can elaborate on it, because I believe he has a lot to say about it. Yes, we're seeing a very, very organic indie underground scene in Egypt and in Jordan. It's always been like that. Lebanon is no exception. Algeria, Morocco. There's always been this street art in music, you know? It comes from deep within the masses' concerns. It's mostly social and mostly personal, you know? So we're seeing that our Saudi artists, whenever we introduce our own artists, they always like, oh, finally, we got our own Cairo key. We got our own Jeddah. We got our own, you know? So there is this very niche attention towards that, and it's growing faster than we expect. I wouldn't say as we expect. It's growing faster as we expect. It's still new, so there's a lot of predictions to do, but we're seeing attention towards this kind of art. Whenever we get, like, whenever Cairo Key from Egypt came to Saudi, there was a big attention towards that. And many of those people who attended this concert are still not aware of our own indie scene. But those who are immediately become ecstatic, and we see them in every event. Whenever we do,
That's right.
whether it's small event or big event, we see faces that are new, and then they're not getting older. You know, they just keep coming every week. You know,
Yeah.
And people just show up. Ahmed can elaborate on the indie scene that's happening in Jordan and Egypt
Yeah.
and Lebanon or whatever.
So I mean, as Mostafa exactly said, it's like we try to engrave in a stone. I mean, it's not that easy, really. I mean, when we try to start releasing all the indie artists we have and the indie sound and all this edginess they have, we got two problems. The sound is really different, okay, which is people not really get used to it here in Saudi Arabia. I mean, when the whole thing started, music coming up and Middle East happening and big concerts, big festivals, all the names been coming outside, all this good is internationals like a DJs, like an electronic music, pop, Justin Bieber, and all this Jason Derulo. I don't know, whatever kind of artists coming from outside. So this is what people would love to listen to. All right, this is the big names people are listening to. So when it comes to this kind of sounds that we are producing, it's totally not what not people expecting, not people what people are really seeking. So we are trying to find a new ground. You know what I mean? I'm trying to find a new land and put our seed and trying to see how this plant is really growing. It's not that easy, but as Mostafa said, I mean, all the indications saying people are start shifting slowly into the indie scene because it's a very honest, it's come from your heart. People really believing it. It's something that's different, it's unique. So people are really paying too much attention at the moment to it. But how fast it's growing is definitely good, but it could be much faster. But we believe in year by year, month by month, even day by day, is really going faster and faster and faster. So when we start looking outside in Egypt and Jordan, it's all for the sake of Saudi again, because we think of bringing those acts from outside, or let our people listen to those acts from outside. They're going to learn. They're going to listen to it. They're going to say like, oh, this is interesting. Why don't I do the same? Why don't we approach kind of a thing? Because in Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon, I mean, they've been doing music since like 50, 60, 70, 100 years. They went through a lot of hardship. So why don't we learn from them? We should really start from where those guys really end. So we were taking their experience and try to develop it. So all of them mingling together, see how they perform, see how they produce, and we put all these people together and put them together to see, listen, and pay attention to all of these days. Really is paying too much good thing to everyone, to the Jordanian, to the Egyptian scene, and even to the Saudi scene. It's really going forward in a very amazing way.
Mind you, that Saudi always had like had a leading role in music in general, but it was this Khaliji cultural Saudi music that also had an influence in Lebanon and Jordan, this Khaliji style. So when it comes to Saudi, it was this specialization. Like we knew how to do that sound really well. It's our culture, it's what we know. But as the 80s started kicking in, the 90s started kicking in, and we started having exposure of international music, whether from East or West or Europe or Africa, whatever, some people started having other perception and mixing music. And I believe that the music that we're mentioning in Jordan or Egypt is not the typical Egyptian or Jordanian music. This also, they have their own cultural signature sound. We're talking about the indie sound, the bedroom recording, the personal writing a poetry and coming up with the sound, to express it. This is new to us here in Saudi.
It's got to be amazing for you two and your co-founder, Ahmed, to be there at the beginning of this, because you guys are sort of talking about a community that's developing and coming together. And at some point you're going to, and I don't know in the future how far, but at some point there'll be a Saudi sound.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And you guys will have been right at the origins, right at the creation.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this is what we're trying at the moment to do. I mean, to create some of a sonic. I mean, a signature. I mean, we want to bring this authentic kind of music, cultural kind of music, and put it out there. Now, what most of the artists are really doing. I mean, so when the whole thing's opened up, All right. I mean, the first thing that they would try to do when they come to write music is doing what they're listening to all these years. So if it's Western music, they will try to copy the Western music. If they've been doing a kind of Eastern music, they will do kind of Eastern music. They don't have their own signature yet. They don't have their own sound yet. But with time, definitely it's coming, and we can sense that. I mean, we started with an artist. They were exactly trying to copy and certain bands out in the USA and England. But after 1 year and a half, they start building their own identity, which is amazing and unbelievable. After 1 year and a half, everyone is trying to find their own way, trying to find their own selection and develop a sonic identity, which is like, whoa, this is very, very nice from everyone.
What's the Wall of Sound's capacity? In other words, you have 15 artists. Is that because
we already exceeded our capacity?
So
I'll tell you, okay, I'm gonna say something that's not professional here, but
I know what I'm gonna say. Go ahead.
so every 4 to 5 months, Ahmed comes in and is like, Mustafa, that's it until the end of 2020. That's it. We're done signing artists. Let's just focus on what we have, focus on events. I'm like, I got you back. Don't worry about it. Okay. And then like a week after that, because you have to check this artist out. I don't want to sign him. I just want you to check him out. I'm like, Ahmed, he's great. He's like, what do you think? Should we sign him? I'm like, you know what? I got your back. Let's sign him.
I mean, you can't. I mean, you can't. I mean,
Ahmed does what Ahmed does. You just have to support it. It always pays off. So you know what? I'm glad he changes his mind.
I mean, a good sound is a good sound. Sometimes you really, exactly. I mean, you see this a good artist, amazing sound, and you feel like, you know, if we're gonna work together differently, we're gonna do something interesting. So this is what usually is driving us. That when we see a good artist, we say like, if we done this together, definitely it's gonna be something interesting and a good results coming out. So why don't we do? I mean, if we're gonna say like, okay, we're gonna just, you know, wait another 1 year and a half or 2 years from till we have some kind of funds or to have some kind of support or whatever kind of things are not gonna be the same. So we're always like, you know what, if this one is good, let's just go with it. Fine, let's just try to go crazy without really thinking too much. Music is music, and we love music, and differently. I mean, go things ahead.
Again, the market is new and fresh. It can use more music. Why not?
And it's not going to change for you guys, because as your reputation builds, people are going to come find you, and it's just going to get worse for both of you. I predict.
We look forward to that. We look forward to
that. You know, I was looking at your lineup, and understandably, it's predominantly male. Is that correct? I mean, I think Temp Job is she's a female artist. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And is that, I get that's consistent. Are you seeing though, as you're out there and you're getting to know more and more artists, are you seeing more female artists that are sort of putting themselves forward, or is that yet to come?
Mustafa?
Well, to be honest, we bring it like we are out there. Whoever is approaching, honestly, Temp Job or also /Fulana, she's the same person. Yeah. She was when I told you earlier, me and Ahmed, like, you go find an artist, I go find an artist. It was the first week. Fulana is the one I actually stumbled upon on SoundCloud, and she was undeniably good. Ahmed came with Abdul Malik, who's undeniably good too. He's a front man of 3 bands in our lineup. Okay, see, we do that kind of thing where an artist can express himself in many different ways. They have their artistic view, but when it comes to us giving more attention to whether it's gender oriented or not, whoever comes in, if it sounds good, we actually
that's true
look at it and we put it out there. We have a female artist from Egypt, for example, Samar Tariq. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's brilliant.
And Rafal is coming up as well.
Rafal is coming up actually soon. Also another brilliant, very folky indie, you know. So really, I think, is it culture or is it not? We're not in control of of the gender separation. We're not in control of it, but we do take the surge in. And at the end of the day, it's music. It has no gender when I'm listening to it, you know, unless it's a female sound or a male sound. But the music is good or not. That's whatever comes in. We just filter it based on that.
No.
That's got to be really
okay.
interesting in your studio too. That the sort of cross fertilization between artists. I mean, you said, as you mentioned, one of the singers, has 3 different bands and that sort of thing. But do you find that, and for an artist to come into this community, and Fulana is seeing what Clinch is doing or whatever, so there's you get that interaction, which
absolutely,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it feeds it. It feeds everything. This camaraderie, this kinship, this brotherhood, sisterhood thing. We do definitely have that kind of spirit.
Yeah.
And at first we were like happy about it and all that, but then it became real. Like, oh my God, you're family. You're all family. It was
exactly.
It was just like this is how we feel it should be, but then it turned out to be that way. So
as Mostafa again saying, I mean, this is absolutely right. I mean, Wall of Sound is kind of a family, so everyone inside the family supporting each other really. So as you said, when Fulana stumbled upon Clinch performing, they always go to support Clinch performing with statues of Sinking Men or Skeleton Crowd, and Anahan, Ayon, Neshmi. Everyone is supporting. I mean, seriously. I mean, so we got this Abdul Malik as a front man of 3 bands, but at the same time, he is playing synth with one of our artists called Ayon. So everyone is backing up the others. So it's really good. I mean, it's a family thing.
What's considered a breakthrough? So in other words, do you measure, and maybe you're not looking at this, but do you measure number of downloads, right? And say Idrisi gets 1.5 million for Fever Dreams or whatever. I mean, what's your benchmark for success? Do you have one? Does it matter?
No, absolutely not. Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Not at the moment. Not now. I mean, number of plays, number of clicks. This is really doesn't matter to us now. What we're trying at this stage is doing as much as releases as we can, a good and quality releases, building a good catalog, building a good heritage. Put like a production machine. What we're doing is a production machine. That's what the music industry back and not back. I mean, now Saudi Arabia is, and when it comes to indie music, artists are just releasing 1 track or 2 tracks maximum per year, which is really not very good. So we're trying to change this perspective and trying to put everyone and push everyone to release a lot of music. So we want to bring a catalog. So this is what's matter now. Then differently, I mean, the second phase is what numbers matter or does not matter. But again, I don't think real numbers are really matter. Yes, I mean, from people's point of view, when they go and check YouTube, Spotify, the other music platforms, and they see the numbers of play, it makes everyone happy. But then it's not that big deal to us. Good music and quality music, what is big deal to us.
So right now, it's all about just pushing out the music and creating the music.
That's right.
Yeah, it's more qualitative. I would add to that. So if you say what's a breakthrough, it's not something we decide, it's something we witness. And I would say the most I would attribute, the most I would actually point at to call breakthrough. There are many breakthroughs, but there's one that's undeniable. It's Al-Waili in Egypt. He's a phenomenon when it comes to electronic music. He does, when we say unique, we all go to Waili, He writes in a very unique ways, very unique sounds. He uses retro Egyptian culture. And you see, the breakthrough is not just, they all sound great. Everybody sounds great. But for some reason, Wiley is just connecting with the masses on weekly basis. He went from 3,000 followers to 10,000 followers. He's collaborating with like premium rappers in Egypt, now getting millions of views with these guys. This is a breakthrough that we didn't really work to this is basically organic breakthroughs like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not your goal, but it's the result of what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's that's the thing. I think it's a collective of very small things that we do that builds. Suddenly you see like something shooting up, like, hey, look how that worked out, or look how it was really crowded back then, like, oh, we didn't expect to sell that much tickets, or I didn't expect these likes on this post, but then comes Wiley. I didn't expect this guy to be popular in less than a year. We always thought he's going to reach the top. he deserved it, like everybody else does. Very specific people deserve that without me even mentioning. But Wiley just, there's a breakthrough. Like that's an example maybe you should look at. You know exactly what I mean.
And all that reflects well on Wall of Sound. I mean, you know, it's everybody wants a breakout artist.
Yeah, but I would definitely say not just Wall of Sound. Exactly, as Mostafa, it's an industry thing. It's a good to see all these indie artists are breaking through, because not anymore the classical kind of pop music is dominating the charts now. Now it's this kind of an indie sound is dominating the charts. That's what we want to see. Wall of Sound, not Wall of Sound, it doesn't matter. What's really matter is this kind of music is dominating, and this is so indie music is the new mainstream music. And we can see even in Europe now, I mean, you can see a lot of Billie Eilish is an indie musician, right? And she's, I mean, and she's a phenomenal, and she's doing a great numbers and billions of everything that you want to just imagine. So this is what we think it should really be.
And Jeddah, I mean, in Saudi Arabia, you know, there isn't the market really yet. You know, like I'm thinking about, like, if you wanted to make a lot of money in music in the United States, you could try to record something on SoundCloud because the market is there, and hopefully, you know, you get picked up because everybody just knows where to go. What you guys are sort of doing is just building this from scratch. I mean, because it's really hasn't been around that long. So you guys are sort of shaping the industry. And like you said in your interview, you know, sort of being patient, focusing on the original artist, long-term project. There's no immediate success, consistency. This just, I guess this isn't a question, but this just seems like the way to do it, right? You guys are investing in what is already there and helping to sort of germinate it and get it out there because it's original. And so that's fascinating. You know, you don't have a major scene yet, but it's coming.
There are those out there, but there's a big gap, and we're trying to like capture as much of it as possible to connect all the dots that are scattered all around. If that analogy makes sense.
How are people listening to music these days? Like, is radio still big in Saudi? And you know, because Saudi's spending a lot of time in cars, stuff like that. I mean, how are Saudis really listening to music? Is it the same as in the West, or is there a lot more radio listeners? Or can you guys talk a little bit about that?
I mean, we definitely wouldn't really jump into this because we don't have this big experience when it comes to radio and the frequency of people listening to the radios. But we have like a couple of how many radios we have here? Probably 4 or 5, and they're big and popular, and everyone is listening to them. So I believe, it's a bit is it popular, but how big it is, we definitely cannot say it's as big. But yes, it's there. People listening to it, and big applause to these people. Really, they are supporting indie music, and they love indie music. Really, I think give us a great support airing our music. So I believe, yes, I mean, it's something that people still listening to it. Yeah, but definitely not like, you know, music platforms or podcasts. I think it's not doing the same.
I think I don't want to overlay our experience on yours, but you know, in terms of alternative music or indie music. So, for example, in my day, and you guys have referenced the 80s and the 90s in grunge rock, but a lot of these artists back in the day, that time, would tour universities and that sort of thing. You know, they'd be out on the road all the time, and that's how they build their audience, because they weren't getting any radio play. And is there a comparable, or is there a circuit for indie artists in Saudi in order to build a sort of a following if they aren't getting radio play?
We cannot say that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess what I'm saying, if you're into indie, if you're really into music, there's ways to go see your favorite bands.
Yes and no. I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, you're always gonna find shows. I mean, we as Wall of Sound, we always try to put shows for our artists. Absolutely, probably on a weekly basis, probably every 2 weeks, you're gonna find your favorite indie artist. If you really love this artist under Wall of Sound, definitely gonna find him playing somewhere. All right. So we try. We believe releasing music and playing live, the two main factors of building a good career. So you have always to put a good music, and you have to go and promote this music playing live. then picked by radios or not, this I don't think this is really, I mean, the point here. But we think playing live, a lot of live, and in small cities, small crowds, anywhere, any place, it's always good for you. In front of 10 people, in front of 50, 100, doesn't matter. Just go out and keep playing, because this is what I think it will take you to the second phase. Just keep playing live.
I can give an example of that. The last time Clinch was in Jeddah, we wanted to do a gig in Jeddah, and I was supporting him as a sessionist in guitar. And I sometimes, from time to time, I try to help the guys, whoever needs guitar. So this event, it actually didn't sell anything until the night before. It only sold 20 tickets, you know, and we've been waiting for this night. Clinch was finally have the time to actually do a gig and all that. And it kind of got to us, you know, like, we're just going to be like us jamming in a studio, you know. But then people started showing up at the door. They weren't the hundreds that we were expecting. But then there were a bunch of few that engaged really well. For me, it was the best gig I ever had in terms of how fun it was. So this is what we're really looking for the artists to actually get acquainted with the stage, despite who's there or who's not. So this is the phase, I think, that maybe if you want to compare it to the grunge scene, where they can tour, they can go out there, there's the radio. Yes, there are the music apps on one hand, and then there are these gigs that no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're playing to one person or not, be on stage as much as you can, because it's a rare opportunity at the moment until we actually make it regular. And we're working on a plan to actually make it regular by having our own wall sound sessions, which did really well, I believe, relatively, where we just had free registry for people to come in and check our artists every week, Monday nights, you know, similar to Tiny Disc kind of format, you know. That's awesome. It went really well, and we called it season 1. And now we're actually working on season 2, trying to monetize it and create the culture from scratch in that sense.
So speaking of big music festivals like the Wall of Sound, you know, Monday nights, but no, there's something like Soundstorm, MDL-based. I mean, they're doing their 3rd one this December. I mean, those are huge affairs. A lot of foreign artists as well as others. I mean, does that sort of lift the scene, or is it good for everybody?
Most definitely. I would say music is music, and at the end of the day, people come to have fun and enjoy their time in a weekend. You know, this is really the industry. Like that's what Ahmed was saying earlier. It's about the family. It's about having fun, and this is what we want. At the end of the day, they come to the studio and they became family, not because they want to create careers. They want to have fun. We want music to be a part of our culture, and indie music to be a part of the culture. So definitely what Soundstorm is doing with Middle Beast or XP, who are more into the business side of things, Middle Beast, XP is more into the business side of things. They are trying to create this industry from scratch, trying to create a sustainable environment and an ecosystem for artists. And having these mainstream big festivals, you know, in that loud tone is a big statement that all of us can feed off.
Yeah.
I used a bad analogy when I said Kurt Cobain. I was thinking I
was joking.
No, I'm just kidding you. No, but I'm going to use another bad analogy, and I want you guys to pick the good part of it. So the Kurt Cobain, the Nirvana grunge scene, you know, the artistry of it. Yeah. You guys remind me a little bit of the Summer of Love, and I say that because setting aside all the things that aren't necessarily attractive, but there's a spirit there.
Yeah.
There is a spirit of community, and we're on the cusp of something new, and you know we're all in this together, and you know let's do it for the purity of it, and you know, and the rationale, the motivations are all in the right place. It's just fun to listen to you guys because it does. That's what it reminds me a little bit of.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are aware of it. I think because we know our music history, and because me and Ahmed came from a generation of trying to be musicians, you know, and then now that we are seeing the young people who were our age back then, we want to be to them what someone wasn't for us, you know. Mm-hmm. So we are aware of the Summer of Love, and we know how Jimi Hendrix rose to the stars, and we know all these stories. It's what we grew up listening to and trying to know, you know.
Yeah.
So seeing it happening around us, it's not. It's just funny to me. I don't know what to say about it. It's just funny that we're having this mini experience. Go ahead.
Again, as Mostafa is saying, I mean, seriously, people really can sense how genuine is our message. I don't want to really emphasize on this already, but seriously, it's pure message from us to everyone, to our artists, even to our people. Is what we do is really music, and what we care the most is music and the artists themselves. So whoever is working with us an artist, we always try to push forward, doing what they love and do it the way they want, but with our experience to shape the whole experience and put it out there in a very good way and in a representative way. So this is what we do. So the artist come with his own vision, comes with his own music and with his own thing that he wants to say, and we say, yes, this is a great message. Let's deliver it in a good way and how the market can really understand it. So I think really artists have been clicking to this, and even people when they come to our shows, they can really feel how passionate we as a Wall of Sound and artists, they want to do and put and deliver the message out on the stage. So people start really, opportunities start supporting and cheering for this, and they start showing up in every show that we try to put, because they felt it's kind of, they have to really support this kind of a movement. They have to support this kind of community. They have to support these musicians because they are trying to do something different. I mean, Richard, honestly, we are very excited because every day there's something new happening. Every day there's a new hope. Every day that we think, like, you know what, there's something new is happening. Something is opening up more and more and more, and more opportunities and more chances are coming. We always can sense that, and it's really happening. And really, the whole vision of 2030 is really happening in a very interesting way that we believe in it, and we can see that change is really happening to us.
Ahmed Shawley and Mostafa Fahmy from the Jeddah, Saudi Arabia-based independent record label Wall of Sound, which was founded in 2018. Our listeners and viewers can start by finding their stuff on Instagram at Wall of Sound SA, SA as in Saudi Arabia. Gentlemen, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Applause.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you for giving us the time.
It was amazing.
Our pleasure.
You guys, it was a treat. Thanks so much.
That was our conversation with Ahmed Shawley and Mostafa Fahmy from Wall of Sound, which was so fun. Richard, what do you think? Let's get to Yella.
Saudi in a minute.
Yella.
All right, number one. Women to teach fourth grade elementary students in private and foreign schools. The ministry, this is the Ministry of Education, clarified in the circular that this decision vis-a-vis grade 4 comes in tandem with the success achieved after application of assigning the teaching of students from the first to third grades of elementary level of the private and foreign girls schools to female teachers. Quote, the ministry also desires to continue creating stimulating environments for teaching and learning, as well as to support investment in the private general education sector. It was stated in the circular.
Very interesting. The ministry said during that hiring female teachers is part of an initiative that falls under the Early Childhood Schools Project, which is a government initiative which incorporates a special program to better facilitate elementary school students' transition to their next phase of schooling. Really, what this is sort of getting women to be teachers of young boys, which is very common in the U.S., but was not common in Saudi Arabia at all. And so they're sort of phasing it in slowly, and it's culturally and socially sensitive a little bit. So kind of good to see this progress is at a snail's pace, but it's in the right direction.
Well, and it seems to be picking up, because I guess that in 2019 is when they decided they'd allow women to teach first through third. Mm-hmm. They just now bumped it to fourth. I thought there was an interesting quote here from this article. The project was implemented after conducting several scientific and behavioral studies to determine the most efficient methods of early education. The studies found that female teachers bring benefits to education. According to the ministry, one major benefit of the program is the presence of female teachers in classrooms eases communications between teachers and parents.
I had saved that exact note because I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot unsaid there, as in if male teachers are not quite as good. But that's really cool. This is really cool.
And like, the socialization, having an authority figure, a woman who's not your mom or your aunt or your grandmother, for young boys is anywhere, not just Saudi Arabia, is an important thing.
I had one elementary school teacher, until 7th grade that was male. And they were all, other than that, they were all female. I think it's way more common for females to be elementary school teachers in the United States. But
absolutely. I mean, here a male teacher, in elementary level is much more rare.
Yeah. One of my earliest elementary school memories, Richard, is my 2nd grade teacher on the first day of school got proposed to from her fiance, soon to be husband, on the first day in the first 30 minutes of class. I remember getting there, and then he walks in with a ring and proposes to her. And I was just like, what is happening? I'm only 5 years old or 6 years old. What is this?
I think my first crush was on Mrs. King in 3rd grade. And so I was completely confused. I didn't know what I was feeling. And I'm a boy, for God's sake. And that's not what we want having in Saudi classrooms, but yes.
No.
Yes.
But just funny that stands out. Nothing that I learned, but just that. So yellow number 2, Saudi Arabia's industry minister says a percentage of national products in some retail stores reaches 70%. The largest local stores in the kingdom began to allocate spaces within their distribution points and branches to highlight national products with the identity of the, quote, Made in Saudi Arabia program to enhance the sale of local products and make them a preferred option for consumers, the SPA said, Saudi press agency.
Yeah. Interesting. We have a Made in America here. I think every country has a sort of made in where they are, trying to promote, domestic production, and it'd be nice to take off. I mean, if they're competitive and they can fit the right price range, why not? It's a great way to promote things. I guess they're really trying to the Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources is also the chairman of the board of directors of Saudi Exports Development Authority, Bandar Al Kharayef, and he's the one who's making these quotes, and this article is about. But they're just trying to pressure, major retail stores, or encourage major retail stores to do made in Saudi stuff.
Made in the USA stuff is sort of a politically, proud thing for us in the US. It's probably no different in Saudi Arabia. It's also better for the supply chain, which is always tougher, just instead of shipping in something that you can make locally. So very interesting. It's good to see them doing stuff like this. This is starting to get a little bit more advanced into Vision 2030 to say, hey, let's start getting some more local content here in these stores, very interesting.
Number 3, Aramco expands Namat industrial investment program. So Saudi Arabian oil company Aramco announced a major expansion of its Namat industrial investment programs with 55 agreements and MOUs across the sustainability, digital, industrial, manufacturing, and social innovation sectors. Namat, which has grown from 32 to 55 investments since last year, supports industrial investment partnerships, helping to create jobs for the Saudis and contributing to national growth and capacity building. The program aims to enable opportunities for local and international companies and leverage various incentives offered through the government's Sharik program and other initiatives.
Yeah, this program was launched in November 2020. Namat means growth in Arabic, so pretty solid on the button name. The program's stated goal is to forge world-class industrial partnerships in 4 key areas: sustainability, tech, industrials, and advanced materials. Richard, we just talked about supply chain. That's sort of the focus here, which is interesting. Amin Nasser said of the program last year, it was an interesting quote because it was sort of just sort of like hit it home. He said, quote, "For Aramco, having a robust and resilient supply chain has enabled us to overcome a number of challenges in recent years. Our rapid recovery from the attacks at Abqaiq and Quraysh in September 2019 is one obvious example." So, I mean, this is another program that's going to take years to really get to mature, but it is very interesting.
It's Aramco is sort of at the nexus of a lot of things, and this is sort of rolling up a couple things. One is obviously local production, localization of resources and suppliers and that sort of thing. The other is public-private partnerships. And Aramco is a leader in that. Their in-kingdom total value add program, which is very much using the supply chain to develop localization and skills development. But they're also this Sharik program that's referenced in the lead is a national scale program introduced by the Mohammed bin Salman, and with the intent of having basically $1.3 trillion by 2030 of investment from private sector into the economy, and part of that program calls on large companies in the U.S., SABIC, Aramco, others, to move forward in this and make sure you're getting investment that's private sector investment that's coming into the economy and staying there. And so this NAMAT program, again, so you see it building out, they've already got their in-kingdom value program, now the NAMAT program, which there's a whole list of those 22 MOUs and agreements, which brings in investment in key sectors. And so they're meeting their expected contributions across a number of things in terms of localization, as well as public, private operations, ventures to bring in investment, private sector investment. Yep. So anyway, this is why I think Yella is an interesting segment, because we picked this. It's kind of off the beaten path. You wouldn't really say it, but it's part and parcel of what they're really trying to do in terms of Vision 2030. It's just an announcement. Aramco expands NAMAT industrial investment programs, right? So that could go and nobody would ever see it. Mm-hmm. That's one reason we include things like this in Yella, because it fits into a larger piece, and it's important.
The 966 rules. We're doing some good stuff. This is stuff that could be missed even if you follow Saudi Arabia really closely. Yeah. So it's sort of cool that we're doing this big interview, big things, and then we say, hey, look, these are some stories that may deserve some extra attention. Some would say maybe there's a little bit too much attention paid to things like golf and the line, but we have to just discuss those along with Yella number 4, Saudi Arabia to host an International Falcons exhibition. More than 500,000 people will descend on the 2022 International Saudi Falcons and Hunting Exposition, the world's largest falconry event, taking place from August 25 to September 3rd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Awesome. The 10-day extravaganza brings together enthusiasts from around the world and celebrates the art of falconry and its rich heritage, spanning generations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Visitors will get to see firsthand the world's finest collection of falcons and hunting equipment, along with having the opportunity to experience unforgettable desert safari trips. Richard, what are we doing here? We should be there. I think owning a falcon or any bird of prey would be the coolest flex of all time. My cats may not like it, but this is cool. I mean, this is really interesting.
Well, that's one thing about a falcon, that, that maybe one animal will be less interested in you than your cats. They're magnificent birds, and it is amazing. I know that falconry is a real art and takes a lot of practice. This is interesting, and we've talked about it before. The Saudi Arabia's emphasis on its heritage. I mean, you talk falcons, camels, coffee, dates. So this is the largest. The International Saudi Falcons Hunting Exhibition is 550,000 people from over 30 countries are expected. It's clearly the largest.
Yeah.
Ongoing right now is one of the largest date festivals in Indonesia, in Qasim. It's one of the biggest festivals of its kind. So, I mean, you have, this is the 4th year of the Falcons Festival. The Dates Festival has been going on for a long time. It's a month-long festival, and it's not only celebrating the heritage but promoting the export. So this is all fun. It's all good stuff.
It always is funny for me to see. No, I just want to add one thing. It's always funny to see. When you have these big falconry events or really any animals that are kind of used to just one master or a group of masters, whatever, and then you bring them in front of 550,000 people and they manage to keep their cool. It's always impressive. Like animals on TV, late night shows, you're like, wow, is this thing going to fly off the handle here or what's happening? So, it is an art form. It's very, very cool. So we will have some images here to show our viewers, but that's rad.
Beauty. Saudi Arabia among number 5, right? We number 5?
Number 5.
Saudi Arabia among top 5 overseas markets as Bullet Train rakes in $62.5 million. The stylized action romp Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt, earned $62.5 million worldwide over its opening weekend, according to studio estimates. Saudi Arabia earned a spot on the overseas play ranking. The film racked up $32.4 million at the international box office and $30.1 million in domestic charts. So international beat domestic. Overseas play was led by the UK with a 3.5 million start, followed by France at 3.1 million, Mexico 3 million, Australia 2.2 million, Saudi Arabia clocking in at 1.9 million.
Really cool. Richard, I'm so far behind on movies. I sort of want to just give up at this point and pretty much have. But this movie looks awesome with Brad Pitt, director David Leitch. I think Leitch, or is it? I think it's Leitch. Leitch. Another thing, I probably have another name I botched, but he does some really cool action films. He did Deadpool 2. He also likes to put himself in his films, which is cool. We've talked a lot about the film and cinema renaissance in Saudi Arabia recently. It's now becoming a target market for some of these films because, I mean, you can make money debuting or being shown in Saudi Arabia because, you know, these cinemas are popping up everywhere.
That's the reason I threw this in. Mm-hmm. I mean, so in a readout of, you know, Bullet Train at first weekend action, you know, international box office, Saudi Arabia's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's just unlikely, but now it is likely, highly likely, and it's probably going to grow. So that was the fun of that. There's really nothing to it, except I did like your little digression on David Leitch and how he likes to put himself into his movies.
Deadpool 2 was really cool. I got to just do like some big, maybe a long flight or something, just do a big catch up because I haven't seen anything new recently. Yeah. Young children will do that, but I'm overdue for a nice movie. So
I'll have to talk to you as actually what you're watching in terms of your video, your consumption, because I'm sure it's all kid oriented. I'm not sure what the kid oriented entertainment is of the day now. We had ours, but I'm sure it's different now.
To be honest, Richard, we're almost totally done with TV at this point, just because by the end of the day, we've been both looking, and you're the same way, looking at our computers all day, that it's just so nice to just not do that or not look at a screen. So, but yeah, anytime there's kid TV on, it's really hard to tune out. Those songs are pretty catchy. Okay, number 6, yellow number 6, ahead of the Qatar World Cup. An expanded Salwa border crossing was inaugurated. Capacity at the Salwa border crossing between Saudi Arabia and Qatar has quadrupled from 3,000 cars to 12,000 cars in each direction per day. The Salwa border crossing post reopened in January 2021 after the Al Ula summit, ending a 3.5-year closure. Richard, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have a long border, 54 miles long. We're going to show a photo of the border crossing that we're discussing now for our YouTube stands. It looks really nice. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we just included this just because it's good. This is what you want coming out. That Al Summit, January 2021, ended, you know, a long tour, a long period of conflict, and things like this were the consequences. You know, you didn't have, you know, border crossings were closed, and this is especially important in the run up to the FIFA in November in Qatar, because a lot of Saudis are going to be wanting to cross that border, you know, en route to the FIFA championship. So, but this is nice. This is the ground truth of de-escalating political conflicts, and that's great.
Richard, that was an awesome episode, if we may say modestly. 57. Yeah. Make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening to this or watching this. And then, Richard, if I may do a quick shout out. We try to do this. You've done this, and I have not done this yet, but a shout out quickly to Bill Connor, loyal listener, really a great guy who's referred a lot of these interviews to us. And you know, he's just opened up a new company called 3.FYI, which is going to be a Saudi-based sort of public speaking, media presence training for leaders. If you are a sort of an executive, or if you just want to get comfortable talking on camera or talking to the media or giving a speech, check out his website, 3.FYI, because he will help you. And it's very tough to do these things. It's really hard to communicate with skill and discipline and be persuasive, and it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. It does to us, Richard. I'm just kidding. But just shout out to Bill Connor, because he's doing great work. He always refers us, you know, potential interviews. Just a great guy. He's an original. He's one of the original guys. I mean, at the moment, I think from our second episode, he found it, loved it, said, let me help out. Let's be involved. So, I mean, he's a true blue, the 966 supporter. Yep. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Richard. Good episode. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Lucian. Next week it is.